This is LA's first.
Live from Los Angeles, welcome to the Dr. Erin Show. We're all about manifestation, transformation, and breakthroughs. It's time to claim your birthright of prosperity, vitality, and love. So grab your tea or coffee because together we're awakening the world. May you live your truth. Are you ready to move past the rat race and start living abundantly? Are you ready to have financial freedom truly and truly? Well, if you do, you definitely want to listen to this podcast. Welcome to the Dr. Erin podcast. We come together to know the truth, live on spiritual principle, and align with universal law. We truly know the truth that whenever somebody awakens, they have a voice and a message to bring to the world. And together we are awakening the world. Our mission is to awaken 1 billion people. And I know for certain that we will fulfill upon our mission by developing world-renowned spiritual entrepreneurs, spiritual coaches, spiritual practitioners, law of attraction ministers, and doctors of divinity. So I'm so thrilled to be with you. I'm Dr. Erin. If you're the first time to this podcast, I'm a doctor of divinity. I teach, obviously, universal law, reprogram the subconscious mind, and develop amazing human beings, bringing truth to the world. So let's do this thing, you guys. We're on a series of a money breakthrough series. We're on 9 of 12, number 9 of number 12 series. And this is the name and the title of this podcast is How to Have Financial Freedom, man. Moving past the rat race and starting to live with total abundance, claiming our birthright of abundance and prosperity. So let's break this on down. So I want you to have vision for a moment. And I want you to vision that you are on your deathbed. I love the vision of deathbed. And I want you to take a look at your life. What was your life like? Were you just keeping up with the Jones? Did you have a lot of debt? Maybe you got that great little house and that picket fence and 2.5 kids, and you put your kids in the right school and you did all the right things, but somehow you felt like you died a little bit more along the way. Maybe you decided to go for your dreams, took the path and the road less traveled, and listened to the call. That doesn't mean that you didn't eventually have that home that you wanted and that picket fence and those kids. But what I know for sure is that there is always a choice that we always have to make. That our economy and our culture sets us up to be in a rat race of borrowing money for the things and the identity that the culture has told us and programmed us to think that is going to fulfill us. And oftentimes, more than not, people end up having midlife crisis. They end up feeling unfulfilled, and they truly feel at some point that they gave up on their dreams. And so I don't want you to do that. You know, Ray Dalio, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but I'm a spiritualist that loves to teach universal law, principles, all this. And I like to relate it to really tangible things out there in the world. And if you know Ray Dalio is an economic genius. He runs the largest venture capital fund in the world and has written an entire series of books and things on spiritual economics and principles and things to develop a life that is abundant and rich and building assets and everything else. So it's really fascinating. He's got this great video series on economy. And he's one of the best of having you understand what the economy is. And why I'm telling you about this is because everything spiritually, everything we teach about universal law should always add up to science, to economics, to philosophy, to even religion, all the above. And so today I want to break on down, what does it mean to break out of the rat race, break out of trying to keep up with the Jones, and truly live an authentic life that is fully expressed and fully abundant and prosperous. Because what I see a lot also is spiritual people that renounce and don't have any wealth and are broke and can't have the impact and the power that they want to be able to bring truth to the world. Or I see people who are kind of like, kind of sold their soul, if they will, and do whatever it is to get the material world that they want, but yet they're still kind of bankrupt in their spirituality and their fulfillment. So what I want is the goal is for you guys to have both. I want you guys to be able to fully live your truth, break out of the rat race and to really truly understand that you get to have prosperity, monetarily wise, as well as spiritually and in your relationships and in your health and all the above. Okay. But we need to really take a look at the cycles of what does it mean to be in the rat race, to be able to understand and say, not going to do it. Okay. So Ray Dalio is really brilliant at teaching us about the economy and what is the economy. You know what I mean? What is the economy and what's the productivity growth within it, right? There's short-term cycles, there's long-term cycles, there's transactions of marketplaces, and on the sum total of all marketplaces, of all transactions, equals basically the economy. And the economy is based on so many things, from interest rates and credit and all the spending and transactions, and everything comes to this place called the economy. And what happens for so many people is there's cycles in it, right? So a lot of times we will, you're young, you're told by your parents, by the schools, by the world at large that you should grow up, maybe go to college or maybe not, get a job and begin to build what's going to make you happy. Get that car, get that house, get that career. And most people end up borrowing money to do it. And then what happens is they end up getting almost creating like a jail cell for themselves, because if they have so much debt and they, are kind of stuck, they got to keep in that job because they have so many bills that they have to pay per month. So they just don't have as much freedom of choice, right? And we're such a fast paced, like instant gratification, that instead of making the money and buying something once we, have enough money to buy it, instead we buy on credit. And we get ourselves into some sticky situations because the economy changes and real estate falls, the stock market can go up and down. All these things go up and down in flux. And the reality is that majority of human beings spend more than they make, and they get themselves in bad situations. Majority of human beings. Okay. So we call this a rat race, right? It's like the rat is on this, this wheel that's going around and around. It's not actually going anywhere. It's just going around and around on a wheel. It doesn't even know it's not going around a wheel. So I want you to kind of look at your life right now and ask yourself, where are you at? Are you on that treadmill of trying to, have yourself look and identify as something really more than you really are at this point in time? Or you're someone who just said, you know what, I'm giving up all that. And in fact, you're denounced and you don't even have abundance or flowing money at all, right? Where are you at in those? Maybe you're a little bit of both, whatever that is. But the truth is that you're neither of those. You're neither, you are a divine spirit that has desires and has a purpose that has been written on your DNA for you to express and realize in this lifetime. And you're also not somebody here just to, suppress yourself and not fulfill upon those desires and just renounce everything and think that, money is the root of all evil, which we went over in another podcast. But you're here to truly be reborn past all those different cycles, past all those identity, past the rat race, past keeping up with the Jones, to truly live and express life. And so as Ray Dalio goes on, it's really fascinating, because when you take a look at the economy, what happens is the more people spend, the more quantity, the price equals the price, right? And so all markets of all sellers in all industry equals the marketplace and equals the economy, right? The economy is also, guided by the amount of interest rates and the amount of debt and all this different stuff, all coming to this one machine called the economy. But what's fascinating is it's really, you have a good economy when there's flow, and when it's restricted, then basically you have an economy that is beginning to contract and basically begins to go into a recession and even potentially a depression. So it's the same exact thing that happens with all of us, right? We're either in flow in the currency of money, or we begin to contract, not spend, not flow. And then we don't also have money, because wherever you spend money, then that's someone else's income, right? So it's a direct correlation. You're either giving or receiving in the flow of the economy. You're either giving and receiving in the flow of the economy. So you have to understand that it's, and then it gets tricky though, because when you're actually spending on credit, then that's like using your energy in the future. And so then imagine you've spent a bunch of energy that's in the future in buying, a house on credit, a car on credit, credit card debt, all this stuff. And then imagine that all of a sudden the entire, economy goes down. So you've already spent your energy ahead of time, right? We understand then, right, the stock market might go up and down, real estate markets might go up and down, people start cutting expenses, and everything begins to contract. We've been through these cycles. 2008, about every 10 years or so, these cycles happen where things contract and the economy goes down. We have a bubble before, and then it bursts basically, and then everything kind of stops. So we want to take a look at this, right? We want to go past these cycles. What do we learn from this? We want to go past these cycles as spiritualists and as entrepreneurs. You're like, well, what does this mean exactly as far as an entrepreneur? This means that you have got to take a look at the bigger picture. This means that depression and recessions all begin in the collective consciousness of our economy. That always there's a mental equivalent, and that's what we teach. That imagine that actually depressions happen when the sum total of the collective consciousness begins to have, no hope in the economy. Everything contracts, and we've all been there personally, right? We've been to where maybe we've had an experience around money where we had no money. We began to fear not having money. And then we got even more sad, more hopeless. And then we went into like maybe a mini depression or a big depression, right? The exact same thing happens in the collective. And so how do we get out of the rat race? How do we get out of the rat race? And, as the title of this podcast goes, have financial freedom. How do we have financial freedom? So it's interesting because there was a point in time I had become a self-made millionaire, and I had quite a bit of passive income, like a lot of passive income actually. And I didn't have to work. And it was fascinating because, as we know, most people that don't work at all or don't have a purpose get more and more sad, right? So it wasn't until I really handed my life over to my calling, and I actually had to kind of give up. I had to let go of things in my life. I had to give up even some financial freedoms because I had to have, it's almost like there was a spiritual shedding of that I had to go through. And I had to be willing to give up everything in order to get everything. So my invitation for you is to no longer look at the rat race of trying to get that big house or that big car before it's authentically created. Meaning, instead of selling your soul to have a job to pay for that stuff, instead of doing that, instead of, being in a relationship just because it's money and you have all that stuff, instead of all that, imagine for a moment, imagine that you actually surrendered your life to what you truly want to do. Imagine that you actually surrendered your life to the calling and that you didn't know how you're going to make money out of it. And you had to live on faith and vision, right? We're going into a time right now where the impact of automation, the impact of economical cycles, the impact of potential job elimination, the movement of entrepreneurship, the movement of small businesses is booming. And the reason why is because it's demanded. It's spiritually demanded. Our creativity is demanded because it's who we are. So imagine for a moment, and I had this moment the other day. So I was looking at a property, and the property actually reminded me a lot of a home that I let go. And it was a 7,400 square foot home I had in Park City. It was on the signature golf course of a beautiful golf course with water going all around it. And I let it go. I let it go to come out to Los Angeles to fulfill upon my calling as a doctor of divinity and what I knew I was here to do, what Spirit had called me forth to do. And I was looking at this property the other day in Beverly Hills, and it was funny because it had like the same finishes in the bathrooms and the kitchen. And I showed the video to my son. I sent it to him, and he said, "Oh my gosh, that looks like our old house on Homestead, some parts of it." And I was like, "I know." And my girlfriend, one of my best friends, had come with me to the property, and she said, "What's speaking through for you?" And I said, "What speaks through is that Spirit and my higher self is saying, you gave up everything, but now you get to have not only, you know, what you're here to do and your dreams and being fulfilled in what you love to do, but you also monetarily get to have the total abundance and have all the material stuff that you thought you couldn't have if you gave it up for this life." And I want you to get that imagine that if you truly did hand yourself over to the truth of what's being born out of you, of your highest expression, and that if you fully had really give up and you're willing to give up everything, that the life that is there for you, it may take a little bit of time, it may take some faith, it may take some hustling, but the life that potentially is there for you is better and greater and more fulfilling and more prosperous and has more money, more cash, more everything than you ever even imagined or ever experienced thinking the other way of selling your soul out and minimizing and succumbing to the life that isn't totally what you want, but it's what you think you need to do to have what you think you want, right? So I want you to imagine for a moment that you actually are willing to give up everything, willing to give up all the luxuries, knowing that if you truly surrender to what is authentic and in your heart and what you're birthing, that it is law, that it is universal law that you will arrive to the place that's even more abundantly, even more abundant, even more prosperous, even greater, even more fulfilling, all the riches, all the abundance, everything, even way more than what you ever even were trying to get in the rat race of whatever the Jones and keeping up with, X, Y, and Z people. And that's what I know for sure. Because in the book, Spiritual Economics by Eric Butterworth, this is what we're preaching in New Thought Movement, is that lack and limitation is an aberration. It is a sin to be poor, meaning that is missing the mark. And if you truly are in alignment with truth, you will be rich. That is law, because it is giving. And just like an economy, how we put a stimulus package and all that for economy, it's because it's in flow. And then when you flow and when you give and when you serve in anything, it has to reflect back exponentially. Affluence equals an abundant flow. Jesus said, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all things shall be added. And Jesus was not thinking his, meaning seek the kingdom within. Seek the kingdom within your consciousness, that heaven within, and his righteousness, your righteousness, the right mind, the right thinking, no longer placing your worth out in the world, and all things shall be added. Wealth is well-being. And there is no such thing as a purely financial problem unrelated to false attitudes and emotions. Depressions, economical depressions begin in mind. Prosperity, the word prosperity comes from Latin root, which is literally translates as according to hope. If you don't have hope, if an economy doesn't have, if the people, the collective does not have hope, we will begin to go into recession and maybe even a depression. Economics are a direct reflection of collective consciousness. What happens out there starts in here. And so I think that one of the most profound things that Ray Dalio said is that when a depression happens is actually when people realize that what they thought was their wealth really isn't their worth. I'm going to say that again. A depression happens in the economy when people realize that what they thought was their wealth really isn't. Got that? How many people I watched over and over in 2008, okay? I had friends that had all this stuff. They had fancy cars, fancy houses, fancy everything. It was like their entire identity was all in this shit. Sorry, excuse my language, but all this material shit, okay? And I love material stuff and I love aesthetics, but when you identify it, when you put it as your source of joy, it's a problem, okay? But when the economy crumbled, and I had friends living on my sofa because they lost everything to their name, they were lost because their worth was wrapped up in their material stuff. So this is always a litmus test. This is how you do it, okay? Whatever you're doing right now, whatever you're hustling for, whatever you're working for, imagine that tomorrow all the material stuff went away. Would you be happy that you had been spending your time doing what you're doing? I'm going to ask you again. If tomorrow all your material stuff went away, all the money in the bank, all your home, your car, everything, would you be happy that you had spent your time doing what you were doing? And if the answer is no, then you're not living authentically. You're living for those material things instead of for the expression of what you love. And when you fully live a life that express and a career doing what you love to do, the bonus is those material things. The side effect is wealth. The side effect is abundance of all of it. But the truth is that the real joy comes from the expression of what you love doing and the gifts of what you're giving to the world. And so may we know that truth. May we know that the only economy is a spiritual economy, that is the only economy that never can have a depression without the cause being you. You are in charge of your life. Do not look to the world for the ups and downs of the economy. Do not look to the world for your joy, for your source, for whatever. All abundance begins within. And when you know the truth of who you are and when you live an authentic life, you are untouchable. May you live your truth. May you take this podcast. May you refer a friend to this podcast. I am so clear. It is time to know the truth and have a money breakthrough and live your best life. I just simply know this in my mind and heart. That's together we say. And so it is. Amazing, you guys. Please refer this. If you did enjoy this, please give a 5-star review. It'd be so amazing. Super important. Share with a friend. And I'm here for you. Okay. If you're interested in learning more about our programs, you can check us out at soulsociety.com. You can also befriend me and get some freebies over on social media, drerin.tv, DRERIN.tv. Have a beautiful day and may you live your truth. Thank you for tuning in to Soul Society and Dr. Erin podcast. If you've had a calling to be a spiritual leader or coach, you can go to soulsociety.com and check out our free training. If you've received value here, I would love it if you take a moment and give a 5-star review. In exchange, I have a ton of free gifts for you. Grab your free awakening book, 40 guided meditations, and digital manifesting masterclass. I also have a free money meditation and worksheet for you so you can begin to break through your scarcity mindset and claim your birthright of prosperity. You can get all of your gifts and learn about our upcoming transformational events in my bio link in both Instagram and Facebook. That's under drerin.tv, which is DRERIN.tv. Also, I'd love to invite you into our free private community on Facebook under groups called Soul Society. That is facebook.com/groups/Soul Society. That's SOULCIETE. Have a divine day and may you live your truth.